I have an argument for reincarnation. And I like what Matt says. If you have a really good idea, why don't you try to get it published? And I've tried to get this published. I've spoken to different philosophers about it. I've argued it on Reddit. So I've got a paper here with a lengthy argument on it. I'll just read the first paragraph and we can talk about it. Baseline awareness, calm state after anger, sadness, or excitement. The recurrence of baseline awareness guarantees that I will live again after I die. This is the seed from which awareness arises. If an infant in the womb has the same baseline awareness I had when I was alive in a previous life, that infant is me because I was that awareness, at least in seed form. This seed gives rise to all of my awareness. So the point is, after anger, sadness, or excitement, I calm down to basically a kind of tranquil state, and that's a recurrent state, and that all of awareness arises out of that, and that even if my awareness is completely annihilated when I die, it will recur again in an unborn child, basically in the womb, because I think that, unborn children are conscious and they're aware, because they suck their thumbs and they punch and kick and stuff like that. So that's the basic idea.
In what sense would the consciousness of a newborn infant represent what we would call you?
Well, it's kind of like the basis for me, because I am not my thoughts, really. I can't say I am my thoughts, and I can't say I am my body, but I can say I am my awareness. And so if you peel back kind of the layers, there's a kind of core, and that is my awareness, and that recurs. Therefore, I recur.
So let's say there's an infant in the womb. First of all, I don't think that they're conscious to the extent that you do, and we know that children develop a theory of mind. It's not like they're born with an understanding. But let's say there's an infant in the womb and it's experiencing anger, and you and I are both dead. How do we know which of us is that baby under your model?
Well, I think in theory, if we had the same baseline awareness, it would be both of us.
Okay, well, that's just ridiculous.
Into a single awareness.
It's ridiculous it's ridiculous to say that it's you and that it's me. Because that violates what we understand about identity. You are you, and I am me, right? We are two separate entities, right?
Well, there isn't an identity at this point. It's like the baseline of a song. The baseline.
If there is no identity, then how could you say the baby is you?
You can't.
Well, I'm saying I would arise out of that.
Okay. First of all, there's nothing about this that fits with any model of individual identity. And if you're just going to say that because a baby can seemingly have experiences that are similar to you, and that means that you are reborn, I'm going to say, no, that's not what that means.
Well, I mean, it has as much validity as me saying that I am Matt, right? Because me and Matt can both be angry and we're both aware.
No, because you're not your thoughts and you're not your body.
Sure I am.
But essentially essentially at the core, I think there's an argument to be made that we're all the same as far as that baseline awareness, that most basic awareness.
Then that renders your point irrelevant, because if we're all the same, then you don't get to say that you are reborn. Basically what you're saying is another entity is being born that is similar to or identical to the rest.
That's why I was making the point that it's no different than me saying I'm Matt.
Here's the point. Okay, if I slip into a coma, my awareness is annihilated. But I emerge from that coma a different person, let's say, but I'm still a continuation of what I was before the coma.
Well, no, I think that there are people who would actually say that sometimes somebody suffers trauma and they are, quote, a different person.
And I'd say you're a different person every single second of every day. You're constantly changing. You don't have to do a coma thing. Just, you don't even have to really go to sleep or take a nap. I'm a different person than I was yesterday.
Right. Well, the point is that your awareness continues.
Yes, and there's no continuity between your awareness and the baby or the infant in the womb that you're pointing to. There's no continuity of experience there.
If it's the same awareness, it's
Well, okay, first of all,
the same thing.
First of all, no, it wouldn't be the same thing. You have this fuzzy notion of awareness. How would you demonstrate that an infant in the womb not only has awareness, but that it's the same awareness that you or somebody who deceased had? Not the same, not the same, not, hang on, not the same type of thing, because that's just saying we're all human. But literally the same.
I'm kind of hung up on the idea of why would I not then be able to say I am Matt?
Well, in a sense, you would be. Well, because you're in a spatial temporal location. You're in a different place.
But if we're not our bodies, then I'm not, right? I'm just awareness.
Well, I think in a sense, you really are your awareness. I think that's what a person really is. And in a sense,
right, but what you're saying is that if we have a similar experience of awareness, then we are the same. And what I'm saying is, then why can you be an infant in the womb, but I can't be Matt?
Because Matt is in a different location. He's in a different.
But he's not his body, right? Didn't you say he's not his body? So there is no location.
Well, no, but his body is part of him.
So we are, to some extent, our body.
Okay.
Isn't that what you are saying? Which is different than what you said earlier?
No.
Yeah, earlier you said that you're not your body.
He said everything. He said.
And now you're saying that
possible...
he's located in a different space, and therefore I can't be Matt. And yet that requires us to acknowledge that he is, in fact, in some respect, his body.
Well, his body. It's like.
Isn't the infant also in a different space?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're right back to Tracy's point.
Well, okay.
You have a bunch of terms that you haven't defined, and you have a model that you offer no explanation for how you could remotely demonstrate it. Let's say for a second we had a really good understanding of awareness, of all these things that you think make you you. Even if we had a good understanding of it, how would you demonstrate that a baby in a womb is in fact you reincarnated?
Because it is a continuation of
It's not a continuation. You don't just get to assert it's a continuation. Please draw the connection from you dying that continues to that child.
Yeah, which of the children that's born after you die is you?
It's like the point I made. It's like the point I made about the coma. If I emerge from the coma as a different person, I'm still a continuation of what I was before the coma.
But yes, because you're talking about you're the same physical form, you're the same brain, you just happen to be slightly different than you were before. But that's about identifying this particular body. This is me. This is Matt.
I'm not
this is Matt. Let me finish. This is Matt. I just changed in the course of this conversation. I'm now different from I was at the beginning of the conversation, if for no other reason that I now have the memory of this conversation and the fact that I've breathed in different atoms. Okay, so I'm different. This, okay. Wait, no, stop. You don't get to claim a continuity. That infant in the womb started with a sperm and an egg, two physical things coming together in the womb, correct?
Correct.
What, is anything else added to that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, I don't think so either. That means there's no continuity from your death to that sperm and egg.
Well, let me make this point. Okay, Heraclitus said you cannot step into the same river twice, but the same process that carried my horse downstream 10 minutes and me downstream. So there's more. The river is itself a process that can be the same from one moment to the next.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you've dived into a massive confusion and metaphor, and you're trying to claim that things are the same, and you're denying identity, and you're making claims about who we are and what we are, and trying to find some way. This isn't an argument for reincarnation. This is a bunch of assertions from ill-defined words.
Yeah, there really is no argument here, and there's no demonstration of causality.
What I'm saying, the argument is that awareness, my awareness, and my consciousness arises out of the baseline awareness.
I don't know what a baseline awareness is. I mean, you're saying that that's when you're not angry, right? When you're just kind of sitting in your calm.
Yeah.
Consciousness, okay, first of all, I still don't understand what baseline awareness is, But what you're describing as consciousness arising from baseline awareness is, I don't understand how that's even remotely a model of consciousness. If you said that consciousness is something, if you said that consciousness is something that arises from a brain, a mind at work, that's something I could understand because I know what a brain is and I know what a brain does. I have no idea what baseline awareness is because it sounds like something you just made up.
Okay, here, let me define consciousness, okay? Consciousness occurs to awareness.
That's not a definition. That's not a definition. You can't say, hang on. You can't say, let me define consciousness and start with consciousness begins with, that's not a definition. That's a description of how it arose. That's like saying, let me define rose. A rose begins as a seed pod.
Okay, it occurs to me that it's Sunday.
That what?
Okay, that thought, it occurs to me that it's Sunday. Okay, consciousness is not awareness. Consciousness is what occurs to awareness. Okay?
I would say okay, except that you haven't actually, that's not a definition of anything. And first of all, I don't know that consciousness is anything other than awareness.
Yeah, I can't really figure out how they'd be different, how those two words would be different.
A thought occurs to me, and that is in itself, it's like a ball striking a tree.
That's you becoming aware of something. But hang on, because it doesn't matter if consciousness comes from awareness. What the hell does that have to do with whether or not an infant in the womb is in fact your consciousness?
Because there's a source, and the source is recurrent.
How do you know that?
How do I know that? I think it's possible. I'm not arguing.
Okay, then I don't care. I couldn't possibly care less if when I ask you how you know something, you say because it's possible.
At that point, we're at the point where go back to the table and figure out how to show that it's actually happening, and then we have something to talk about. Because possibilities are very, there's a lot of them. And there's a lot of conflicting possibilities, that are...
And you haven't even demonstrated it's possible. You just think it's
possible that this isn't the case, too.
Here's something from experience that we all know, okay?
I'll bet. You want to bet on that? Before you say something from experience that we all know, do you want to bet on that?
No, well, I don't have to bet.
Okay.
I don't want to bet. Look, let's say I have a piece of fur in my hand, and I stroke the piece of fur with my thumb in the same way each time. Okay, this is an argument for the soul because I'm having the same subjective experience over and over again, but my brain state is not the same each time. So that means there's something in my consciousness or in my awareness that is not purely my brain because I'm having the same subjective experience, but my brain state is not the same each time.
I don't even know what to say to that. Fur feels like fur even when I'm angry. We're going to have to move on, but I mean, maybe think about this some more, and if you, come up with something
but there's an argument for the soul.
It's not an argument.
It's not an argument.
It's not supported by evidence. The fact that you don't understand something and you just want to offer forth more confusion doesn't get us any closer to understanding it.
These are assertions.
Okay.
But thank you, Joel. We're going to go ahead and let you go. Bye-bye.